I don't know what's happening here. I clicked on this link. Our CSL sent me this, as he does, and I gotta say, I was not ready for this outfit. I don't know if this is just like a minus the hood and a gimp suit for Black History Month. I don't know what is happening. What's that? What is? How is that an outfit? I'm honest to God, this reminds me of something Marilyn Manson would wear in a shade lighter. Did they just? Is it an outfit or was she hosed? It's just weird. Okay, she's talking about the bogus texts from Hunter Biden that have been released as they fail to find real crimes, they leak texts that from his phone, and this is where you get more and more emails and texts that they find allegedly or that are totally not modified at all, by the way, and are totally written by people who speak great English. Yeah, I don't. She needs a mask with a zipper. I know it's got to come with one. You don't buy an outfit with like that without a hood attached, right? Maybe she had it tailored. Anyways, there's this story about these Hunter Biden texts that he was fucking his assistant or being sexual with her and all that kind of stuff. And again, stuff that's been in that hard drive, stuff that's been available for fucking years now. And this is what they're leaking out. If you're saying there's a whole criminal family and there's a giant like economic like spider web of Biden crime family connections, and we're 2 years in, and what you're still producing from it is if it's even real, by the way, allegedly stuff from when he was at the height of his addiction. Like, that's indicative how an addict acts during the height of their addiction is how the entire family acts. And I would love for any of them to walk up to anybody who's got an addict in their family or had an addict in their family and go, when they were at their worst, everything they did, you did. You are responsible for how they were, even if they're a grown person. It's super fucked up. But anyways, let's hear. She goes, this is Candace Owens reacts to Hunter Biden's texts with his assistant. And assistant is in quotes. Again, I might bail on this one because who gives a fuck?
Speaking of diabolical, I guess we should discuss Hunter Biden. The entire Biden family is quite diabolical, but it's just a...
How? How are they diabolical? Was it a diabolical infrastructure bill? What's diabolical? The Violence Against Women Act? What was diabolical? The crime bill? What part of it? The fact that he wanted a public option in the ACA? Diabolical? Jesus Christ. Make up your mind. He's either a doddering old fool who doesn't know where he is, or he's a Machiavellian Luciferian who knows where all the dead bodies are buried all the fucking time. It's so stupid.
Amazing. It's the gift that keeps on giving, his laptop. And
there is no laptop. There's a hard drive called laptop. Only an idiot thinks there's a real laptop. You're welcome.
Now a situation has arisen where they have found...
A situation has arisen. Really? The situation has arisen? They found what they do? Because they've been scouring that hard drive, which is magically larger than the entire capacity of the alleged laptop he dropped off, which had a maximum 256 gigabyte hard drive but for the year model. And there's 416 gigs on this alleged laptop hard drive.
Emails and text messages in his laptop that indicate...
Yeah, I keep all my text messages on my computers, don't you?
That he had a sexual relationship with his assistant. Now I'm going to say assistant using air quotations.
Because you're going for some of that sweet Don Jr. magic.
Like, Instagram model.
Yeah, so, by the way, Candace Owens just saying Instagram models are whores. That's that means. That's where she's going. It's weird. It's sort of like a drive-by punch. Nobody knows why.
Quotations, because
because her husband was DMing one,
reading this email
and she's still got issues about it.
and back and forth, it's very clear that she's not an assistant, but it's a good way to pay somebody by saying they are, even if she is potentially a little more than that, or a little less.
Yes, because fucking your secretary is something that no Republican of merit for decades would ever think of doing or think of as the perfect work environment for themselves.
Less than that. So this story begins, by the way, they have not revealed her name, but a young woman, she's
she's real. Let's just count.
29 years old at the time, and she messages.
Yeah, so we won't tell you who her name is, but we want you to single in on anybody who was 29 years old, female, and working in or around Hunter Biden's businesses during that time and start following them around and calling them a whore, because Candace Owens told you to.
Hunter Biden's secretary, because she hasn't been paid in a few weeks. I'm going to read you her email. She wrote, again, this is to his secretary. Her name is Katie. She wrote, "Good morning, Katie. A couple of..."
She is Kate. Katie, they're all named Katie?
"Inquiries for you. I did not receive the $837.06 payment from Owasco. That is..."
And 6 cents? Are taxes as such?
Hunter Biden's company. "On December 28th, 2018. My last payment was on December 14th, 2018. Also, I recently went to the dentist to get some work done, and my insurance did not go through. Because of these two incidents, I'm curious to know if I have been terminated from this position. I'm requesting information of my current status in this position of Los Angeles assistant. I am also requesting to know the current status of my insurance and how long my insurance plan is to remain active. I haven't been able to get any contact with Hunter, so I am completely in the dark. Thank you for your time, Katie." A couple of things that flag immediately for me.
That doesn't seem to be written by an American, and also the format is vacillates between personal and professional.
I used to be an assistant.
Then you know what? It's just real. I'm just going to assume it's real. Why not? Let's just...
She's not writing in the best English, right? Usually, typically, if you're going to be an assistant to somebody as powerful as Hunter Biden, the Biden family, you might be able to write an email better than this.
Yeah, but she has other skills, clearly.
She says that she had not received her December 2000...
Yeah, you just read the whole thing to us. Move on.
December 14th payment. Pardon. She has not received her December 28th payment, and her last one was on December 14th. And she is messaging the secretary. I think you would probably message the HR person. Typically, a secretary does not handle the payment to and from. And it almost seems like she's just reaching out to him to say, "I haven't heard from Hunter Biden. And by the way, if you want to know whether or not you have been terminated, you would not reach out to the secretary." So this immediately flags me as this is a very weird relationship altogether.
Or completely fabricated.
Well, you want to know how weird it is? This is...
Yes, I definitely, that's why I'm here. It's not, whatever it is, it couldn't be as weird as this outfit.
The response to this email, which doesn't seem to have come from Katie, but comes from Hunter Biden himself. He then texts her and he says, "I will make up for back pay. You have to make up for back work by FaceTiming me and or going to our next club party." That seems weird. He then continues, "When can you FaceTime? If we FaceTime, the rule has to be no talk of anything but sex, and we must be naked, and we have to do whatever the other person asks within reason." Now,
oh my God, what a pig. Within reason.
As he's sending her these messages, he's also sending her Apple Pay amounts, which you'll see he sends her, like between each text, he's just kind of sending $100 here, $25 here.
Again, where is the giant financial conspiracy that involves his father? What's the influence? I don't give a fuck if a dude during the height of his addiction was a complete prick. I don't. Especially since he's cleaned himself up since. That's the fucking point. So paint my houses out, yeah.
Here's another $500, kind of egging her on. And she tells him, she writes back to him and tells her that she can't afford her rent, right? That doesn't sound like a relationship between a boss and his assistant.
Yeah, it does. Because you have a more personal connection and conversation with your assistant than you even have with your fucking secretary. Who? And by the way, hold on one second. I don't know if I'll be able to find a news story of this. Let's see. It's gonna. Oh, I'll have to search for it. Hold on. Her. Well, here you go. Hold on one second. This, I think this will kind of sum it up as far as, just so we have a baseline of how, who Candace supports and who she doesn't. But yeah. All right, here we go. Keep going.
Sounds like a relationship between somebody and their hooker, right? And like all things.
No. If you've forgotten to pay your assistant and they go, I can't pay my rent. I have to pay my rent. They like, that's how they talk because you're their boss. You're their assistant. You don't all of a sudden start talking to them. By the way, if you want to get paid, I suppose, in a weird business-like relationship, if you're their assistant and you're around them all the time. This is so fucking dumb.
Things that Hunter Biden does, he tries to legitimize it through his family's dealings, his family businesses. And so...
What?
You see this going back and forth, and it's just incredible to see him writing this stuff to her directly. Here are a few more messages from Hunter Biden to his assistant.
Allegedly.
I love your hair and pretty much everything else. Can I see your beautiful ass? $25 paid. Amazing. Show me how you play with yourself when you're all alone. $100 paid via Apple Pay. We can have a contest to see who blanks.
Who? Wait a minute. Permission to call bullshit for a minute. But, if I may, Your Honor, I have another question. Who the fuck types while masturbating on a FaceTime call when you can just speak? What? I'm dead serious. Yeah, I agree. Sex work is work. That's not the issue I have at all. I'm just confused by the, like, what are you doing? Right? Does any of that make sense? Why would you have to like, wouldn't you just go $100 pink? Hey, I like what you want another 50? Why would you put anything in? He had to, so there was a record of it. That's right, because he just wanted future incrimination for Candace Owens to talk about. I swear to God, I don't understand. I'm just saying it's bad form. I don't believe it's real, but if it was real, I'm like, I don't understand what, Jeff, did he have laryngitis while he was masturbating? What?
First, if you win, you get $100. And if
I don't, you don't have to tell me. I know this game.
I win, I just win. Everyone wins in this game. Love you. Beautiful. You are the sexiest ever. We are racing, remember?
Oh my, yes. So he is masturbating feverishly and texting at the same time. I'm starting to understand how Burisma might have hired this guy because he clearly has mad skills. If they find video of this, he's going to be spinning plates at the same time. There's just going to be this. Like, what? Who? How do you? Yeah, now I'm locked in. Who won?
I mean, every time I have anything to deal with Hunter Biden, I just think what the media would have done, how much coverage this would have gotten if this was Don Trump Jr. You know,
Well, first of all, Don Trump Jr. fucked off from his wife and started hooking up with Kimberly Guilfoyle. And his texts during that time, if they came out, would be a lot like this shit. Knowing her and her dancy ass bullshit that she does all the time. So of course that shit exists. It just never leaked. And quite frankly, I don't care about that shit any more than I care about this shit. It's not my fucking business. Everybody's sexual interactions, especially their consensual ones and the ones that are naughty or romantic or both, look like shit to anybody on the outside. It's why it's nobody's fucking business. But secondly, the problem we have with the Trumps is not their consensual relationships at all. Put this stuff up next to, this consensual back and forth, whatever this woman does for him or is cool with doing, or they flirt with him, or she slept with him, and then that was her. She thought it was part of a ladder, or he was a powerful man, and whatever the story is. She was down with it. She was DTF, apparently. Compare that to the Access Hollywood tape. That's the transcript that should fuck you up. And again, it's not even fucking real, so I don't care.
Everything about the Trump family, we were told, oh my gosh, they're these terrible people. And now we're being told Hunter Biden is off limits, even though he has legitimatized everything that he's done. He's a drug addict.
He's legitimatized everything that he has done. He's a drug addict.
He's addicted to hookers and prostitutes. He's
both? How does he keep them straight? Hookers and prostitutes? Well, at least there were no escorts involved or ladies of the night. And certainly, I hope he's never been to a house of ill repute. It's a dizzying combination of prostitutes, ladies of the night, and hookers in there. I mean, I guess, street. Is it, because they say street hookers, so that's clearly I was about to say that I just don't understand. You're going to have to explain the difference.
He's abandoned his child. Where is Me Too?
No, he's not abandoned his child. He has a love child. They're working that shit out, and it's ugly. None of my fucking business either. Nobody's business. That said, we're just going to blow off the fact that Don Jr. just fucked off with Kimberly Guilfoyle and nope, okay.
Where are any?
Now, granted, here's the thing. Is there a concern that Hunter Biden's not involved in his child's life? Yeah, because as a former addict and somebody who's got his shit together, he might be a decent father figure in that kid's life. You'd be hard pressed to convince me that Don Jr.'s kids would be better off with more of him around.
Many of these groups left reports to care about all of these causes, right? Where are all of these groups? They have no commentary when it comes to Hunter Biden. He's just off limits, completely off limits. He's taking the last name from his child, who he won't recognize. By the way, someone else that he got pregnant, she was allegedly a stripper, and he has a child with her, wants nothing to do with the child. She had to take him to court for child support.
Well, yeah, she had to have a paternity test. You have to go there to get the paternity test for the child at all, and then that will go to support. Support is natural to that fact. You have to go to paternity court, and that's all.
This is a Biden. Do you know how much money they have?
How much money they have? Apparently not enough to pay an $817.06 weekly bill, and apparently $1 billion. But it's all in Chinese, so I don't know that she could spend it.
Biden himself, the president, won't acknowledge that this girl exists. They don't care. She's not invited anywhere. She's kind of in the background, like, oh, well, he got a stripper pregnant.
Oh, like Tiffany.
And we don't care because we're the Bidens, but we're going to morally preach to everybody else. So, yeah, that is interesting. What's going to come of it? Nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know what? And that's because it was nothing at the start. Also, prurient bullshit.
It's a Biden, and nobody messes with the Bidens, whatever it is the president said one day. Nobody messes with the Bidens.
No, he said fucks with. He said nobody fucks with the Biden. Turns out to be true, apparently, according to Candace Owens.
Least of all, the media. They want nothing to do with them. So, yeah, they're just kind of sorting through all of the pornography.
But first of all, the media, you're reading from the Daily fucking Mail. You didn't find this on the internet on a Reddit thread yourself. The media talks about Hunter Biden's shit like that in the Post. And it's exactly where it belongs. In the fucking tabloid press. The same fuckers that talk about the royal family and the Kardashians and fucking the last brave hours of somebody's cancer. It's the same grotesque bullshit they do about everybody.
Pornography on Hunter Biden's phone still. Moving on. Speaking of pornography, I thought...
I'm sorry. Wait. On his what? Not the laptop? Oh, did we have a slip?
Through all of the pornography on Hunter Biden's phone still.
All right, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Candace Owens just stepped in it the same way Steve Bannon does. Steve Bannon always fucks around and says the hard drive from hell. They had a fucking meeting, and they were talking about it, and they were saying, okay, laptop from hell. It's got to be a laptop from hell. It has to be a laptop, because the story is it was dropped off at this fucker's shop when he wasn't there so that he could, I don't know. The story's nonsense. I read his book. It's hilarious. And amazingly bad. But I'm hoping he puts it on audio tape. I'm hoping that that John Paul McIsaac does an audiobook version of it, because I'll share that with you guys if he does. Because unless I have to do a book club at some point and just read some of the goofier chapters, it might be a good sexy liberal tour thing in the future. But Bannon keeps saying, hard drive from hell, which is because Rudy Giuliani flew to Europe, went to Ukraine where they were shopping. The Russians there were shopping, this is before the war, were shopping a hard drive with a bunch of compromat and mixed bullshit and deep fakes and whatever. And he met with this one dude in Italy, and then he flew up to Ukraine, and they were selling it for $3 million. He paid $5 million, and then he came back, and then the whole story started. But constantly we see stuff on there that there's all these, even though the laptop itself is supposed to be way older, we're seeing mostly stuff from his hacked phone, especially pictures. He didn't take these with his fucking, laptop, his business laptop camera or any of that shit. And so all the pictures, it's obviously stuff from his phone. Now, some people back up, obviously, and you're on the cloud and you can get it from there, but it's not stored on your fucking laptop. And that was the problem they ran into. They had to use all this shit from the phone. And so what you're really seeing mostly is shit from his hacked phone. Back, from fucking 2012.
Moving on. Speaking of pornography, I thought this was
oh, good. All right, we'll get a second chapter.
Really interesting.
Well, I think pornography is very interesting. I mean, it's certainly a matter for discussion because... one man's porn is another man's origami.
This is by saying that there is absolutely no way to confirm that this is true. We just have to trust Pornhub. And why would we trust Pornhub? It's Pornhub. But
yeah, it says it's got porn in the title. And hub, which is kind of like hubby, husband. She doesn't trust her husband. Yeah, there's a lot of red flags.
Yeah, they have released their...
Was it a full release or a quick release or a long... Was it a long ropey release?
Their list for the most searched for terms in 2022, and they've even broken down this.
Yeah, you don't even have to. I don't fight the new drug. I don't even know why. Why don't you just call Ben Shapiro? He'll rattle them off. I bet you if he's napping on a couch and you push him like that, he'll just say them.
Annual report by region, so you can see what is being searched the most in each country. So first, let's just start with the top 3 most searched for terms, and I'll tell you why I don't believe this. The first...
I think this is bullshit. Lesbian, ebony, and Japanese are the top. Okay, first of all, lesbian always wins out because there is a large portion, but beyond the fact that lesbians like lesbian porn and their categories of people, there are men who are icked out by another man being in the video. So there's been eras of talk about how some of the biggest female porn names that were like superstars only did girl and girl stuff, and their audience was all men. Like if you see the AVN Awards and that kind of shit, which they have in Vegas every year, the fucking lines at the booths. I've done stand up for shows like that. The lines at the booth for those girls who don't have sex with men. Not that they're not lesbians in their own lives. They have husbands and boyfriends, but they only on camera will have sex with another woman. The line's down the fucking block, and it's all dudes. I don't know why this is surprising. Ebony, I think that's just obviously a fetish about piano keys.
First is lesbian.
First of all, can we just enjoy the fact that she's posting this list on there, and big what? She blurred out one. Big what? That could be a lot. I mean, it's Pornhub. That could be a lot of things. That could be a plural. That could be a singular.
And the second is ebony. And the third is Japanese. And I'm
By the way, this is worldwide.
just not believing. I know that America is the country with the #1 consumption of porn, right? So we are the #1.
No. Also, no. We're the only one that will allow full showing of stats for it. And by volume, we have more people than, say, Western countries. Like, if you stack the EU and had a close to the same population area of the United States, it'd be about the same. It's just that fucking China and other countries aren't posting those fucking stats. Are you out of your mind? Also, well, clearly she's new to this.
Consumers of porn. How is Japanese going to be the third term? That just flags me as weird. Ebony as a second term.
Oh, God, we're going to have a sit down, aren't we? Hey, let me explain to you why Japanese is going to come up a lot. Candace, and all normal sexual attraction issues aside, you as a person at the Daily Wire are surrounded by manga pervs who watch Japanese hentai and then specifically are looking for it and are into it. It's a big, in the incel world, that's a big attraction and focus. There's also this idea of the subservient, the myth of the subservient Japanese woman, and they look for porn that relates to that. So the kind of people who search for porn, this isn't just everyone in the world, because everybody in the world doesn't use Pornhub. The idea is that the people who do, and the people who will take a survey, or the people who will repeatedly look at stuff, will categorize into these things, and everybody else is just doing their thing. So she's going to, again, talk to Ben Shapiro. He'll walk you through it.
America, again, #1.
Thanks very much. Utah, obviously, kicking everyone's ass.
Consuming porn. We're also
red states.
told we're #1 for racism. Seems a little weird that ebony would be the most searched for term. Secondly, who uses the term ebony anymore? I feel like
black pornographers. So black women and men and producers of porn. That's one of the because it's easier than just. All right, I can't. Yeah,
but that's like very 90s.
Ebony magazine.
Yeah. Ebony.
It's very 90s. Yeah, well, it had some staying power in the porn world, I guess.
I don't know. I just feel like people, that just would not be a very searched for term. But
yes, this is she's really concerned that like big porn is lying to us all.
It goes on to break it down by region. As I said, here is the map of the most searched for terms. I just point to some ones that are just funny to start off with. Russian, the most searched for pornographic term is Russian. So in Russia, it's just Russian. They just love themselves. Again, we are being told.
Yeah, it's just an access thing.
That in America, it's ebony. I don't know why that feels so political to me, that I'm supposed to believe that this nation, and that is just so racist. I mean, black men and women account for 13% of the population.
But they're just using Pornhub more than everybody else, I guess. I think, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a branched out thing. Maybe we got too many options, so fewer people are using it, so you're getting a smaller categorization. I mean, I could do some investigation if you want to, but I really don't think you're going to like the answers I come up with.
And yet the #1 most desired thing in America that we're also...
I'm shocked that it's not cake farts, but anyways.
...being told is ebony. People are just searching ebony. And then this, which makes entirely no sense to me, down in Brazil, they're saying the #1 most searched for term is transgender. I just don't buy that. Bolsonaro's Brazil, that the #1, they're like 0.00 what percent of the population identifies as trans. You're telling me that secretly people just love to, in their spare...
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, Candace is young. And so Candace has never I don't know, been in Los Angeles in the 90s and been looking for a concert or a show to go to, and has been flipping through the LA Weekly and overshot by 2 pages, and in the classifieds was not astounded by the fact that there were basically ads for escorts in there, and the only ones that were quarter-page ads in color, which are prohibitively expensive, were TS ads, were transsexuals. That's the folks making all the money back in the day. That's it. Am I wrong? Anybody else? Chicago Reader, whatever else. We used to, because here's the thing. In the 90s, we used to like wrap presents with the back 6 pages of the LA Weekly, or I think it was LA Express. LA Express was the one, because they were free. There's like free porn, like just like ads and strip club shit and whatever. And it was just like this nasty paper, but it was like on every street corner. So it made great gag gift wrapping stuff for your stand-up friends. Anytime stand-up you knew had a birthday, you would just, instead of buying some regular wrapping paper, you just get one of those things for free, and then you're done. It was great. And if you looked at it at all, and you couldn't avoid it, you'd notice that the most expensive and the largest ads were always for, at that time, transsexual people who were working as sex workers. And apparently they got the money to spend on a big color ad. Meanwhile, like straight sex, apparently escorts are like this big, and you're like, oh, that's sad. I guess business is a little slow. I guess post office is always hiring.
Time, look up.
Yeah, that's right. She's wearing a cat suit and talking about porn. I mean, she literally looks like she's been dipped in Flex Seal. But she's gonna lecture all of us about how pervy we all are.
Transgendered people, I don't know. I just don't buy that. Again, doesn't seem real.
Have you been down there? I don't know. I think Candace Owens tours Brazilian sex clubs has got to be a limited series on Vice.
And yeah, I think this is.
First of all, I've seen documentaries about Nanjing. I find it very hard to believe that the Chinese are mostly searching for Japanese. Like, and like the Pakistani region and all this area down here, and like India and whatever. Like India's looking for Indians. MILF is doing very well in the Middle East. That is good for them. And I guess Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're gonna North Africa, it's all anal. There you go. Look at that. Oh, everybody's got that in there. That's all like these are the two. I think it's wrong to mix the teals. By the way, can you imagine ping-ponging, no pun intended, from the Hunter Biden story between, like, literally the idea is that 2 consensual adults are sexting. One of them is like tipping the other for, for exposing themselves on camera from far away. And her going, I don't know, I call bullshit on Pornhub. What?
Entire thing, for some reason, it just feels very political to me. I think you have a bunch of execs sitting in a room saying, what should we say the most viewed categories are? And by the way, it's just ridiculous that they even released this.
Well, I'm curious why you haven't released your Pornhub searches. I mean, honestly, at this point, I mean, what do? Just show up and click surprise me? Like it's Google or something?
Annual report. There's just so many things that are wrong and that are
I'm so glad she said annual properly.
Twisted, but I thought that it was an interesting article, and so I wanted to draw it to your attention because it does feel, I don't know, just somehow off to me that
How? Based on what? By the way, the theory is that she thinks porn is evil in general. So it's weird that, considering how much these fuckers hate feminism, in theory, she's like a second. Oh, quit! Hey Siri, stop! No, don't. I don't know why she thought I was saying. Just a tie of words together. You know what I mean? Like she reacts to porn like a late 70s feminist in that regard. like the ones who are hardcore against it. And certainly not the kind of libertarian conservative that exists. And then I guess that is the direction that they're kind of headed, is that there's been a wave of what I would call the new Victorians. There's a group of people through either pathological introversion or too much stranger danger or discomfort with their own bodies or the bodies of others, or, you know, a mix of the AIDS crisis and horror stories about, you know, bloodborne illness and that kind of stuff from tattoo parlors, blah, 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 that have just decided they've had enough and it's time to put on white gloves and wear an outfit that comes up to your neck and with a collar on it and stuff and not touch anybody. And that's, you know what I mean? Like there was a period where, like, post Dark Ages, post Black Plague, that it's one of the reasons why women wore gloves everywhere, because doorknobs are fucking nasty, and why men open doors for women because men are already going to die early, so who gives a fuck? And, you know, and our immune systems are a little more resilient to certain kinds of contact bacteria because of that, or it just kills us slow, you know, quicker, whatever. Anyways, there was this movement where everybody just wore basically a suit of armor as far as clothing, multiple layers, you know, shells of clothing around themselves because the world was fucking disgusting. And there has been a generational kind of stranger danger reflex, and you see it in both left-wing millennials and far-right conservative, like Talking Points USA millennials. And they're all sex averse. Their sexuality has more to do with like performing their hormones than participating in the hormones of another person, if you know what I mean. But the Japanese and hentai are separate categories. Thanks, Kelling, for straightening that out. I wouldn't know, but I would assume that, like, I don't know, maybe they feel cheated. Like, this is Warner Brothers bullshit. This looks like the cartoon characters on whatever, like Family Guy. I don't know. All right. Sorry, Holly, my friend, we're talking over you. I see. Good. All right. Thanks, Sarah. So, yeah, they're neo-puritanicals. That neo-puritanical. That's exactly right. And a lot of it comes from fear of other people. And you know, to some degree, when you have the focus that the media has over the decades, because what bleeds leads, and the sort of fear stories from, you know, killer bees to murder hornets to AIDS to whatever, and you know, the replaying of 9/11 every year on 9/11, those kind of things. There's, at a certain developmental level, some folks who, you know, think their television is a window will eventually develop sort of a pathological fear of their fellow humans, and the ick factor on sexual contact, even beyond like shaking hands or hugging, will go even beyond that. That's where you've got people in the, you know, if you hug somebody in the workplace and they're like, that's inappropriate sexual behavior, it's because those people can't tell the difference between sexual behavior and friendly behavior, because all of it's bad. They have an aversion to all of it. And they've been told that that's how it starts, and yada, yada, yada. And even when it doesn't. So there is a generational shock that went on. And I don't know how we talk those folks down. It may just wash through. And it's not new. Same thing happened in the early 50s. You know, like it ebbs and flows through all societies. You go through these rise of like libertine sexuality. The 20s were full of that shit. And then the 40s were like lockdown. And the war didn't help. And then the war was over and it was like, let's do some stuff. And then they were like, everybody calm down. And then the 60s and early 70s. Then the 70s had an ebb. And then the late 70s, early 80s, there was a peak of it again. And then AIDS basically put a pause on that for about 15, 20 years. But then there was a period of like, you know, 93, 95 where people stopped giving a fuck again. And you see sort of like the MTV Beach Party and Miami things start growing again because of a generation of just overreaction and underreaction where people are like too scared to even feel it anymore. And so we're waving through that. And there seems to be in this generation, and Candace is one of those generation, that there's this just aversion part to all of it. Everything is scary. Everybody else is scary. It's all uncomfortable. There's no trust. And that there's a reaction to that from the follow-on generations, which is either you're all in with that or you're against it. That's how, rebellion or lines of communication continue in all families and societies. There will be a group of people who are like, I do what my parents did and we behave that way. And there'll be another group that says, fuck that, you got to die of something. And they all, veer out. And at different points in society, the sort of libertine reflex and the hyper-conservative neo-Victorian thing, they jockey for volume. So, we are in one of the expanses socially in this country that is part of the neo-conservative ick factor. You've got a lot of kids who are having what would, I guess, be referred to in a clinical sense as like an on the spectrum view of human contact. Very anxiety prone, very uncomfortable with, touching another human being and fighting their own feelings to do it, meanwhile, at the same time, which has got to be awful. So this, it's going to be interesting to watch how they handle it. But it's clear that, like, this young lady, and by the way, conservatives, for the record, conservatives are people who tend to be conservative, or even kids who have conservative tendencies as they grow up, tend to have a very high ick factor as well. Trump certainly does. He doesn't like being around sick people or gooey things. He doesn't change diapers. He doesn't, he doesn't dive into like dealing with kids and snotty noses and that kind of stuff. I have no fucking problem with any of that stuff. I don't even understand the negative reaction to it. It's just life, just part of it. It's just the thing. And yeah, Manchita saying it's an interesting side effect of COVID. I think that exacerbated it for a group of kids that are growing up now. They haven't hit their teens yet. But for Candace's group, it predates that. It's much closer to that arc of conservatism was they were growing fearful during the 90s. And then 9/11 kicking everybody into high gear about that. And she's a child of that, I think, more than anything. So it's going to be interesting to watch, that ebb and flow. And it's really because of like the transgender and non-binary movement and the LGBT movement and the tug and pull that's going on there of kind of defining and shifting definitions and stuff is very reminiscent, quite frankly, of the free love idea of the late 60s. It's, it's just more terminology based because of our branding society. Like everything has to be branded now, and your label has to get more and more specific so that you can refine specifically what kind of whatever thing you are. And by the way, that's a reflex of someone who doesn't want to communicate. That's someone who wants to hide behind, I should just be able to tell you a placeholder, and then you just assume everything else about me, and I don't have to explain it, because explaining it makes me uncomfortable, and I'm not even sure I can. And that's more of a social reflex that has nothing to do with sexuality. It's just stunted growth and bad parenting, or or inborn characteristics from, I don't know, a wave of Ritalin kids or some shit.